Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Making Medicine podcast, where science, policy, and innovation meet. As always, I'm your host, John Stanford. This week, we're taking a look at some news across the pond in the United Kingdom, talking about DTC advertisements, and we'll get into the newest medicines in our FDA Approvals Corner. With that, let's get into the show. In today's episode, we're taking a hard look at the United Kingdom, where, frankly, there's a dire outlook on the pharmaceutical industry, according to ABPI, the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry. In other words, the trade association representing medicine manufacturers. They put out a new report on September 11th, and it pointed to a lot of holes in the United Kingdom. Richard Torbett, their CEO, noted, "The UK has a world-class science base and potential to lead globally, but without a more competitive environment for investment, we risk losing out to other countries making bold moves to attract internationally mobile investment. First and foremost, we need to create a commercial environment that rewards pharmaceutical innovation fairly and brings its benefits rapidly to the UK." As Richard points out, there's great science in the United Kingdom. 16 of the world's top 100 life science universities are there, world-class R&D infrastructure, strong IP protection, and a rich ecosystem even of biotech companies. But there are also some weaknesses that the report points to, the largest being simply low investment by the country in innovative drugs. A very small portion, only 9% of all of its healthcare spend is on medicines. That's significantly lower than when compared to other peer countries like Japan, Spain, and Germany. That leads to poor patient access. The report found that only 37% of new medicines are fully available for use in the United Kingdom. And it also called out high and, quote, unpredictable clawback on drug makers' revenue. In short, it's a recipe for uncomfortable companies and unhappiness in the system, despite all the right pieces being ready for the UK to take leadership. It closes by noting that the UK can hardly achieve its goal of becoming Europe's top life sciences hub by 2030 unless something changes. Almost in sync with the report's announcement are proof points from individual companies. Merck scrapping plans to open a new headquarters in central London, pointing to a lack of making meaningful progress in the life science industry. Eli Lilly is reconsidering plans for its Gateway Lab site. Sanofi pausing potential investment while, quote, "The UK is a world-class hub for science, but we need to see tangible improvements in the current commercial environment." AstraZeneca announced and paused investment in its Cambridge research site. So what can we make from all these company announcements and an industry association report saying the UK should do more to invest in and value innovation in the life sciences? I think it is important points along the way of a constant discussion that we're always having, is what makes a country important in the global R&D ecosystem for new drugs. The United States pays the most around the world for drugs. The United States also has the most access to available drugs, and it also generates the most drugs. There's a lot of debate happening of, are those things connected? I think what we're hearing out of the United Kingdom is that they are connected, and that a country that's not valuing innovation for its patients is going to have a hard time being a home for that innovation and the ecosystem that comes with it. We don't know if the UK can realize its goal of being a life sciences hub without spending more on pharmaceuticals, but this is certainly a moment where the companies seem to be making a clear statement. We are going to invest our resources and our headquarters in places that are valuing the innovation we produce. It also comes at a time when, of course, we're talking about this because of President Trump's most favored nation announcement. And so I think there's two ways to look at this. One is, it's clear that pressure is rising around the world for other countries to pay their fair share. I think that's what we're seeing from the companies, and I think the ABPI report shows what will happen if countries don't start picking up more of the tab for innovation. But I think we can also look at it the other way. Let's say we did incorporate an MFN price-controlled structure like the United Kingdom. Would we be putting out bleak reports about lack of interest and maybe looking to other countries like China as a place where innovation has gone? There's certainly no interest from policymakers on either side of the aisle to make our innovation ecosystem akin to the United Kingdom's. And so this is a little bit of a blinking warning sign. Price-controlled economies that don't value innovation, for whatever reason, don't seem to be home of the very innovation that they so anxiously wish to produce. Also in the news this week is talk about advertising as it relates to medicines. President Trump signed a memorandum telling his administration to take a look at what they can do to cut down on the number of drugs advertised on the air. And while there are a lot of debates, papers, and everything about whether or not we have too many ads for drugs in this country, and we are, along with New Zealand, one of the few countries that allow direct-to-consumer advertising, there's some interesting perspectives about this from the investment community, and that's where we'll be spending our time. So as this plays out with the administration and we might get new rules, it's worth remembering that speed to market is an important factor in every investment that venture capitalists make into a new medicine. Some have been so vocal as to say, if we remove advertisements, it will slow down adoption rates and fundamentally change the equation for investing drugs. Read another way, it'll make investing in drugs harder and more expensive. And that's certainly not something we need right now. It'll also potentially impact one of the biggest pitfalls in U.S. biotech right now, the pill penalty. We've talked on previous episodes that the pill penalty and giving only 9 years to small molecule drugs is gutting investment in that important corner of science, instead favoring biologics and their 13 years. How do these two issues link up? Well, let's think about it. One of the arguments for more advertisements, or at least to keep the same number of advertisements, is they really do work. They make patients ask their doctors about new drugs. They make doctors look into new drugs that they might need to provide for their patients. And over time, it plays a meaningful role in people taking more medicine. Well, from the economic side of this, that translates to recouping your investment in a drug faster and being able to spend it more on R&D on future drugs. And so the argument from some in the investment community is that by slowing down the uptake of medicine, we'll need longer to recoup that investment and, of course, make a return on that investment. And so maybe 9 years, which we're already seeing isn't enough, becomes 10 years or 11 years or even longer in order for investors to stay excited about the risky world of biotech. So everyone probably has a personal opinion, everyone probably has a favorite jingle, and they probably have a lot of drug ads that they'd rather not see. But it'll be important that we look at the data and the unintended consequences of making a move against this and how it could exacerbate one of the known problems with the IRA, the pill penalty. Now for one of my favorite segments, our FDA Approvals Corner. Each approval represents decades of work, billions of dollars risked, and most importantly, hope for patients. We should really take a moment to think about each of these drugs before the FDA approvals weren't available in the United States. And now, thanks to science and investment, patients will have a new medicine that potentially can make a meaningful difference in their life. So here are the latest wins from August. From Jazz Pharmaceuticals, Modeyso was approved for malignant glioma. It's the first and only treatment option approved by the FDA for this ultra-rare and aggressive brain tumor that affects an estimated 2,000 people in the United States each year, primarily children and young adults. So this is certainly something to be celebrated. So is Hernexeos from Boehringer Ingelheim, which was approved for non-small cell lung cancer. It's the first and only FDA-approved once-daily oral treatment for adults with HER2 mutant metastatic non-cell lung cancer. What's interesting about Hernexeos' approval is the move for an oral treatment. And this gets to some of the conversation about the pill penalty and just how important it is to patients that they be given something that is readily available maybe at the pharmacy and potentially means less time spent at a hospital or in a clinic. It would be exciting to see so many more cancer drugs move into the oral space so that patients can have ease of access and, frankly, often a lower cost. Also approved in August was Brinsupri, which is the first and only treatment for non-cystic fibrosis bronchiectasis, a long-term lung disease that affects about 500,000 people in the U.S. Donzera from Ionis Pharmaceuticals is the first and only RNA-targeted treatment to prevent attacks of hereditary angioedema, or HAE. And finally, to close out the month, the FDA approved Wayrils from Sanofi. It's the first BTK inhibitor for adults with ITP. It's an important approval for the more than 25,000 adults living with ITP who may not have responded well to previous treatments. So August was a big month for the FDA, particularly for rare drugs as well as drugs for diseases that didn't have a drug already on the market. Nothing could be worth more celebrating than bringing something forward. But even the drugs that now give a different way to take medicine, or might work for people for whom other medicines didn't work, it's exciting, and we should stand back and be proud of the scientists, companies, and regulators that are bringing 5 new drugs to the market. That's all from this month's FDA Approvals Corner. That's all for this week's episode of the Making Medicine podcast. Have a thought or question about today's conversation in the UK or DTC advertising? Or maybe you're one of the companies that had a new medicine approved. Drop us a comment and we'll feature it in next week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on LinkedIn, X, and Instagram using the links in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, keep innovating.